Anybody waving
7,
today?
6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good evening and welcome to Hello It's Us, a program based on the premise that life in general goes better if it's all of us working together as opposed to you, me, and them all working at cross purposes. Hello It's Us is brought to you through a collaboration between the Extended Dream Foundation, and Public Access Television Channel 18 and all their help. Tonight, we're happy to have Debbie Stark, one of the co-owners of Home Instead Senior Care, with us to talk about home health care in general, her company in particular. Welcome, Debbie. We're glad to have you.
Welcome, Gary.
And
Thank
of
you.
course,
Thank you, Terry and Keith, for
on-
having me. I
yes.
appreciate it.
on the end, as always, my co-host, Keith Ruff. Okay. What exactly is home health care? I mean, that's a small definition for a great big creature.
It is, Terry. Home health care is a broad spectrum of services that are in someone's home. But there's two major sides of that. There's the health care, the medical side of home health care, and then there's the non-medical side of home health care. The medical side could be anything from visiting nurses, hospice. It could be physical therapy, speech therapy, any kinds of those types of therapy. The non-medical side is exactly like it says, strictly non-medical. There's a lot of things that fall under that. I know some of your questions are going to address some of the services that we do, but it's services that are provided in someone's home. And home could be where they've lived for 25 years. Home could be within a facility, an independent living or assisted living, or even a nursing home where that is their home right now. And those services could be medical or not non-medical, provided in their home, wherever home might be.
Debbie, do you see this kind of work expanding as the years go by?
Absolutely, Keith. I'm glad you asked that. I have to look at my notes here because I wrote a few things down before I came. Right now, there's 40.4 million Americans that are 65 and older. That's 13.1%.
Yeah.
And Americans are going over that threshold, turning 65 at 10,000 a day in America. So by 2050, there's going to be about 88.5 million seniors. So obviously, that's going to mean there's going to be a lot of need for this type of service. Absolutely.
It's less costly than any facility that I know of.
I'm sorry, what was
It's
your...
less costly than any kind of facility that I know of.
Well, you know, it really depends on the type of service and how much service someone needs. I mean, we provide services from just a few hours a week to round-the-clock 24/7. And when you get to that point 24/7, it's probably more expensive, or at least as expensive as in a facility.
Okay.
Yeah, it
But
is.
on average, it's less.
Yeah, it is. Especially when there's just a few hours a week or a few days a week or even every day a week, but just for a few hours a day, it's much less costly than having to go into a facility. Yeah.
And speaking from experience, it feels a lot better to be home than somewhere else.
Yeah. Most people want to stay in their own home.
Yeah.
and they don't want to go to a facility. And there's lots of good reasons for people to go to a facility.
Oh, yeah.
But most people want to stay in their own home as long as they can. And with non-medical services, and even the medical services side of home health care, they're very often able to do that for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And the frustrating part about that is convincing funding sources that that's a better place to be putting their dollars. That the return, because they look at it as businessmen, your return on investment for investing dollars in home health care instead of institutional care is incredible.
Yeah.
Because, as we said, on average, home health care costs about 1/3 the price of a nursing home would. So you really shouldn't have to be a mathematician to figure out how many more services you could provide if your primary focus was on home health services as opposed to institutional services.
Absolutely. And we work with a lot of clients that have long-term care insurance. And I always say that every company and every policy is different. But when long-term care insurance policies first started coming into being, non-medical home health care wasn't even in existence. We just celebrated, Home Instead celebrated their 20-year anniversary this year.
Wow.
And they were the original non-medical home health care in the industry. And so a lot of those insurance policies were written and they didn't include non-medical services. So now when people are starting to need them, they don't have those services provided. Now we're seeing a lot more and more, and the tide is starting to turn, where we're seeing more non-medical services in those policies. But some of the older ones, it was difficult. They didn't provide for that, and so it was just if you were in an institution, exactly like you said, Terry. And we just find, and research shows, that people tend to be much happier when they're able to stay in their own home, a place where they've raised their children and for years and years, and seen their grandchildren come and visit them, and in their own home. They want to stay there.
And they live longer.
Yeah.
They have a better attitude. They are more motivated.
Absolutely. That's very true. And research proves that too, Keith. Yeah.
Well, it's because they're in control of their own life.
Yes.
Because I swear, as soon as you cross the threshold into a nursing home or other facility, your IQ is to drop about 30 points, because you're no longer able to decide when you get up, when you go to bed, when you eat, what you eat, where you can go. And who wants to give that up?
Yeah.
If they take away all decision-making and all independence, who the hell wants to live around for another 30 years?
Yeah. I have to admit, though, there are some wonderful facilities here in the Iowa City area, and things aren't as regulated. When you get into the nursing home, then things are much more regulated, because their patients or clients need a lot more care. But there's a number of independent living facilities, even assisted living, that have a lot of independence. There's some really wonderful facilities here in town that we work alongside of too. But again, going back to what we've been saying is people want to be in their home. I was at the Johnson County Elderly Consortium meeting this morning, and we were discussing how different organizations could work together, helping people stay in their home longer. And one of the gentlemen in the meeting brought up just a wonderful point, that as people age, they are treated like they don't know what they're doing. They're not given the dignity of still being allowed to make their own choices and make their own decisions as long as they can. It's very different if they have dementia or Alzheimer's or any kind of cognitive impairment. But when they don't, they're still bright, smart, intelligent, scholarly. We have a number of clients that are doctors and have been lawyers and very smart people that can still make decisions for themselves.
And put a disability on top of that, Debbie.
Sure.
And I noticed I get treated like a child until I say, I've had 8 years of college. Then you see the look. I get like, wow,
Yeah.
you know. It's not bragging, but it's a way of stopping that cuddling when I don't need to be cuddled.
Sure, sure, absolutely. And you know, we tell our caregivers so much. Part of what we share with them as they go into our client's home is really to get to know our clients, because they have a wealth of knowledge and experience, and so many of them come back and share stories with us. They just love getting to know the seniors because they have such a life of experience that they can share and learn from. Absolutely.
Well, and one of the things through the years I've discovered is when you have somebody come into your home for services, there's an assumption that apparently they think they immediately know you much better than they do, and that automatically they can do the honey, sweetie, baby, oh dear, da-da-da conversation without being invited to. And I don't like that. And I let people know, you don't know me well enough to take those kind of liberties. And it's the whole, part of it I think is the whole scare of Alzheimer's and dementia, that my God, somebody forgets something and you're ready to quick run them to an Alzheimer's unit to see what's wrong. And especially if it's been in your family. My best friend's father passed from Alzheimer's, and he's been scared to death since. Every time he forgets something, that it's the onset of it. And just, the way folks get treated. And for people to understand that they're coming into your home to provide a service. They are an employee, they're not a friend. And that's one thing that I make clear to people when they come in.
Sure.
We will never be friends. We may get along well, but the bottom line is you're here to make my life easier. I am not here to make your life easier.
Although I have to admit, Terry, though, many of our caregivers do become friends of our clients. In fact, today I had a client call, and one of her husband's caregivers is getting married, and she said, "Is it all right if I give her a wedding gift?" And really feels like she's a friend with her. But they can't. You're right. They cannot make that assumption. And we always tell our caregivers, you need to be listening, asking questions, and learning.
Like,
And you certainly can't help have an attraction grow. And just like any other person, you're going to get along better with some people than others.
Right.
But you can't be taken advantage of.
Right.
Like I admit, there's a couple people
Sure.
that are working with me that are very close. We do a lot together. And that makes me feel good.
Yeah. And that's, I think that goes back to every person as an individual, and we need to treat them with dignity as an individual and not make assumptions before we know them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because not everybody is the little frail, can't do thing
right.
individual. Gonna run into a lot of those, but this is
But
But even then, we still need to treat them with dignity
sure.
and
Oh.
respect and,
I agree.
yeah.
But like Terry was talking about before, when people approach me like they've approached you, I usually, I came here for grad school, and that kind of changes the whole attitude. Just a couple words. I came here to go to grad school.
Yeah. So they don't make assumptions.
Well, it's amazing
Yeah.
what it turn around that little phrase
Yeah.
can mean.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not bragging. I'm using it as a tool to help them
Sure.
look at me in a different format.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you're right. What people coming in and working with can gain so much.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
You know,
Yeah.
my God, kids who are coming in now who are decades younger, you know, who pop up with comments are just, you know, we'll be talking about something else, saying, oh, well, when I first went to work and was making $1.45 an hour, and I had one guy once say, no, you couldn't have been. What do you mean? Minimum wage has never been less than $5 an hour. I said, oh, yeah. There was a time minimum wage didn't exist.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, you could make $1.45 an hour, work 40 hours a week, rent an apartment, pay off the loan on your car, have your groceries, and still a little left.
Yeah. Now.
How did you do that? I said, well, you know, gas was 16 or 17 cents a gallon.
Really? Yeah.
It was what? Cigarettes were $0.25 a pack. You know, it's just
Funny.
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's eligible for home health services and what are kind of the qualifications?
For clients or qualifications of a client, I think
Yeah.
anybody that, you know, I think sometimes there's the obvious medical reasons when clients have medical issues that they need some extra help. But sometimes families will notice that, let's say, their parents have a stack of bills on their table and they're not paying them. They're forgetting or don't know how to do that, or they're not taking care of their personal hygiene, or you know, things like that. When families, the children notice that their parents aren't taking as good care of themselves as they used to, that might be a trigger for, you know, we might need to get some help in here. But really, anybody's eligible. I mean, even people that just want some help fixing meals or doing some light housekeeping as we age. And I'm one of those aging that my body's not quite the same as it used to be. And you know, a little help now and then is nice to have somebody to come in and help do some cleaning or things like that. So really, there are no limits to who's eligible for
And I think
care.
that's important to know, that you don't have to be at the point where, you know, you're confined to a wheelchair or
Oh,
walker
absolutely not.
or canes. You don't have to be to the point where you can't get out and about.
Yeah.
Right.
And the key thing to know is that, you know, help with a few relatively simple items can make all the difference
Yes.
in somebody
Yeah.
being able to stay at home.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned that, you know, help with meals, you know. if somebody's not eating right, they're not going to do well, and we all know that. You know, so the difference in somebody's ability to function by having somebody in to fix some home cooked meals, and so you're not dependent on lean cuisine or TV dinners
Absolutely.
or
Healthy
you know,
meals,
things
yeah.
that you shouldn't do, and to make sure that the kitchen's cleaned up afterwards, so you don't have the constant parade of unhealthy meals and the sink full of dishes, which can lead to all kinds of other issues too.
Right.
You know, something as simple as that. If somebody's, you know, the old use it or lose it thing, if all somebody does is get up in the morning and go sit in their favorite chair and turn the television on, and only get up when they have to go to the restroom, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And to sit around is going to cause that. You know, if somebody can come in and, you know, go for a walk with them, take them to the mall and mall walk,
Yeah.
whatever, just to get up and get everything moving and make sure you're not stiffening all up in that. Again, you know, they can be very simple things that either a person, if they notice themselves, or as you say, if a family member notices, just mention something right away. You know, and I think that's one of the bigger problems probably, and why people often don't seek the assistance when it would be most beneficial, is the whole, well, you know, Dad doesn't like other people in his house doing stuff, or, you know, oh, Mom would never let somebody else in her kitchen, or these little things that are the independence things. And to frame it so that it's going to be a benefit for them and a help, so that they can spend their time doing other things and not do the, well, you can't do this anymore, so we're going to get somebody to do it for you. You know, I wouldn't want to be the aide going into that house.
Terry, I can't tell you the number of clients that we have had and have currently that initially started out, oftentimes it's the family, but sometimes it's themselves, where they have been very resistant to having care. I don't need care, I don't want care, exactly what you said. You know, I don't know if I want somebody I don't know in my home. And through talking with them and helping them understand, let's just try it, you know, because research shows that when, and everybody needs socialization. So exactly when you say, when someone is staying at home, just getting up, watching the TV, doesn't have any companionship, because that's part of home health care, is that we offer companionship to do those things. We have clients right now. We have one client that the caregiver spends 3 hours just walking because he likes to get outside and walk. And
But probably wouldn't go by himself.
that can't go by himself because he has early stages of Alzheimer's.
Okay.
But he's very physically active and enjoys that. And several clients that we have right now, now that they've gotten to know the caregiver, they absolutely love having them. They ask when the caregiver's coming back and that. So it's really important to have, it's not just late stages when they're not physically able to do things. It's earlier too, even for that companionship. A client, maybe a spouse has passed away and now they're in the home by themselves and they don't want to go to a facility. They still want to be in their home, but they're lonely and they just need a little bit of help and some companionship, and it lifts their spirits. Research shows that it just having that home health care can totally change someone that's depressed to finally feel like they have life again. So
More like, and I'll admit this, when I first got out of the hospital, I thought I would heal a lot quicker than I really did. I'm still healed. But and that care that I get from home instead really helps.
And you know, though, Keith, a lot of times when people have physical ailments, it's easier for them to accept that, yeah, I need some home
Yeah.
health care. It's when they're physically able and that, oh, I don't need anything, and family members have noticed, you really do, or, oh, I'm not depressed, and they really are. Those are the kinds that are a little harder.
Yeah.
But once they have people and they've built a relationship, and I know, Terry, you said they're not going to be your friends, but we have so many clients that the caregivers have become their friends. Joyce, who is with you, she works with another client 5 days a week, and she's a retired nurse. This one caregiver that works with Keith, and she's working with a senior, and they have become really close friends. Like, she doesn't want anybody else. When Joyce is on vacation, I don't want anybody else. I just want Joyce, you know.
And
so.
there's another young woman that says, because of my openness, it opened a whole new world for her. And that's Sonia.
Absolutely.
So
Well,
she
and
didn't realize what disabled people are about.
yeah, she actually, Keith was in our office the other day, and she's working with another client that has early stages
Yeah.
Alzheimer's, and we were just helping her to think of some things, how she can manage behaviors and help them. But she was saying that she just loves her job as a caregiver. She used to work at, I don't know if I should say, an eating establishment in town, and she just hated it, and she just loves, she said, I feel like I'm not going to work. I just love my clients, and I love helping people, and she's a student
Yeah.
and studying one of the medical professions.
Biomedical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she just, it just is such a rewarding profession. And you know, I know you have it on one of your questions there, Terry, about how, you know, what are the qualifications of our caregivers. In the state of Iowa, there is no certification for caregivers, but we in Home Instead are very, very strict. We only hire about 10% of the people that actually apply with us, because our very first criteria, do you have experience working with seniors, whether professionally or non-professionally, maybe with a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or uncle, but you've worked with seniors before, and you have to have a heart to do this kind of work. And then we go through, we have a thorough background check. We are the only non-medical service that does pre-employment drug screening and quarterly random drug screening. We do 6 reference checks on all of our caregivers. And then we have a 5 to 6 hour training with the caregivers before they even go out the door. So those are the qualifications. And then some of our caregivers are CNAs, some of them are LPNs, we have some retired nurses, as you know. And a number of students that are studying nursing or social work or some kind of medical discipline.
Well, we've burned through our first 26 minutes.
Is that it already?
So.
How do you know? Is that all over? They tell you?
The little fellow in the booth is holding cards at me.
Okay,
So,
30 seconds.
Thank you much for joining us today. And we'll wrap this show and hopefully start another one.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you, Keith, for having me.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Everyone tunes in next week. No, well, not next week. Yeah, next week. Take care.
Take care,
Good.
Debbie. Take care out there. Have a good week.
Yeah.
May you be